Welcome to the fourth installment of the Daily Web.
Hi.
With Sennett and Victor Niederhoffer. The market is always duplicit and very evil, unfathomable, and we'll try to make some sense of it today. What are you seeing, Yelena?
Well, as you said, you should be vindicated today with market duplicity. It was down 50 points yesterday, and it's up the same 50 points today. So, like you said, the market does what it does to shake out the largest amount of participants and to make them pay the VIG, your favorite expression. But the narrative goes that the futures jumped on, again, vaccine optimism, and the more news on the potential fiscal stimulus deal coming out of Washington, D.C., where McConnell and Nancy can actually now work together, given that McConnell finally officially recognized Biden as president-elect. So with potential stimulus coming and with today being pre-FOMC meeting, like you said, it's a bullish day, the market liked it all.
So that's the skinny on the market.
Yes.
And I noticed that the S&P is 3687. It's 13 away from the magic number of 3,700. And its all-time high is 3,700. So we're very close to a constructal number, 0.1%, and very close to an all-time high.
Yes.
Now the market has made all-time highs about 35% of all the days in 2020. So I guess tomorrow, to be completely duplicit, I would imagine that we'll see something at the all-time high. And then I can't fathom, I can't get into the minds of the FOMC people, except to say that presumably a new Secretary of the Treasury is coming, and they might want to. In any case, the last FOMC, the market went up only 3%. It was up 75 full S&P points. And guess what? That's very bearish for the current one. So
you're saying that the previous FOMC results are bearish for the current one?
That's correct.
Just wanted to understand.
They call that serial correlation.
Mm-hmm.
Serial correlation is about minus 50% between consecutive FOMCs. So how's the market going to establish its tendency to fool everybody and cause the greatest amount of pain? And I would say it will do that by first giving everybody the hope that there will be a new all-time high. What do you think of all the things that's happening about the backdrop? Do you feel that we're in good long-term territory?
By long-term, do you mean months territory, or?
That's right. Did you make money? Did you make money on your trading today as usual?
No, today I did not. I actually went home short, so we'll see if I may close overnight or add to it depending on the price action.
But you didn't have a bullish opening?
No. It was yet another gap up, which I thought will sell off, close rather, but it only went halfway, so no cigar today.
Well, remember when I was introduced to the trial by jury, Gilbert and Sullivan comic opera, and in it, the suitor, the man who has breached his promise to his betrothed, is in trying to defend himself, says, well, you can't have breakfast all day. Nor is it the plight of a sinner when breakfast is taken away to turn his attention to dinner. Because nor is he a glutton when he stays away from beef and tackles the mutton. So you can't make money every day. And
that's true. Yesterday,
I lost. I have a rule. I never admit to making a profit. I think that I learned that from the palindrome. Often I would, at the end of the year, we'd be bemoaning how many problems he had and how many major moves in the bonds and the currencies he missed. And then I'd ask him, how bad was it? He says, oh, I was up 60% this year. But it's very good to be humble, not to.
Absolutely.
What's the weather out there in Florida?
Another beautiful day.
Another beautiful day.
Right. And another beautiful governor day. Our governor apparently refuses to acknowledge Biden as president-elect, being one of the few Republican officials who do so. So we'll see. And speaking of elections, there is this rumor on Twitter about the Dominion machines that in one of the counties where they did the audit, the judge have found that the machines report votes in batches, and that the error was very high in the reporting. So right now they're doing an audit of the Dominion machines in Maricopa County in Arizona, and so the diehard MAGA people are still hoping that there is something there to potentially overturn the election results.
Well, as we both have agreed, the contagion of woke behavior is very great, and all the politicians are infected by it.
Right.
And I'd have to believe that the Supreme Court is quite infected by it and that they wouldn't do anything to overturn the election.
Unless the outcome of the audit of the Dominion machines are going to be like striking. It has to be something really big and dramatic for them to reconsider.
Oh, it would have to be something even more dramatic and scintillating than that. I don't think there's anything that could change them from their contagious fear of upsetting the electorate on a woke victory. Now,
right.
Speaking about that, we've discussed the many factors that, had they changed, the incumbent would have won. What are some of those factors?
Well, the vaccine that every media outlet was saying that it's not possible to create the vaccine. It's never going to happen. Trump is too optimistic. And then Pfizer delayed the results of the vaccine until after the election, a couple of days. That was one. Then not releasing the Hunter Biden news. That was another major one.
Stimulus
Right, the stimulus.
wasn't
Right.
going to be a stimulus.
Right.
I came across a quote from CNBC. Trump had said that he expects a vaccine by the end of the year. And they said that there was no chance whatsoever of that
Right.
happening.
He
They
will
said
need
that.
a miracle. Right.
That's exactly right. Speaking about that, I'll add another one. Everybody has made fun of Sidney Powell,
Mm-hmm.
and she has presented 100 instances of fraud. And the media has made fun of it, and I noticed that she's not even covered on any of the major news outlets.
Right. Isn't she the one who does the lawsuit of the Dominion machines? So she's the one who thinks that the biggest fraud is perpetrated by the machines.
Well,
I
she
think.
thinks there are a lot of frauds.
Right.
And I'd say the suppression of her was one of the 5 reasons that Trump lost.
Right. But, you know, the Dominion machines is actually a very interesting story to me because I have an IT background. And just in general, there are so many points of failure with technology. It could be in a database, on the storage side, on the input side, on the transportation of the data side, the hackers. I mean, it's really, really many ways to alter the results if one wishes. You don't even need many people. You just need one person with login and a password. So it's, I'm not saying that there is fraud there, but I'm just saying that if it is, it's quite possible to do.
There was a story right up our alley that the high frequency traders are now using a new technology. They're
Lighting fast, some new cables,
a new
hollow
cable.
fiber optics, something, lightning fast speed.
I noticed that in the past, one was so profitable that they spent $300 million to get a 1/10 of a second faster on executing their orders, and front running the orders of the public. By the way, I think one of the biggest bugaboos, one of the biggest traps that people fall into is this free trading. You know, whenever you want to open an account, you can trade free on Robinhood, and on Fidelity, and Interactive. They're all giving you free trading. But the high frequency traders take out from that, they take out at least $1 billion a year from these trades. So what's the difference if you pay 25 cents a trade, or if you pay nothing and you lose $1 billion?
Right, but the original commission for retail was high. It's lately only has been low, but originally, what was it, $5 a trade, which was pretty high. And so I still think it's a better trade-off for retail traders.
Well, as you know, I'm 100 years old, but my grandfather used to trade with Jesse Livermore. And one of the
I
things
think you're not a fan, but
one of the things I hate is when people say that they really love my book, and the only book that compares to it and exceeds it is Jesse Livermore's book by Lefevre. Now, you know what kind of commissions Jesse Livermore traded? He paid 5%.
5%, right.
5% in and 5% out. And then he was exposed to maybe a 3% bid ask, so that whenever he traded,
Right.
started
That's
out,
like
he
15,
started out
20%.
down 16%. And he was very active. He was as active as you are.
Right.
So
that's insane.
imagine what it's like if you're playing a game of dice or roulette where every time you make a bet, you give 16% to the house.
Right. Well, I guess it's impressive that he was able to make any money at all.
He didn't make any money. That's the point.
Well, sporadically, I mean.
He went bankrupt 5 times.
Right. But
he went bankrupt as many times as he had wives. In fact, as you know,
you could blame the women, you know.
No, the women. He loved to marry models, and one of the things that someone wrote to me, I loved your book, and thanks for telling me that Benjamin Graham was a degenerate, and that no woman was safe within 100 feet of him. Which reminds me that my grandfather always had a Malinowski's The Sexual Life of Savages near his desk. Anyway, he traded with Jesse Livermore, and when I'm in New York, there's a very famous hotel, the Sherry Netherlands. It's on about 62nd Street and Central Park East. And that's where Jesse Livermore went into the men's room and killed himself with a revolver. So whenever I go near that street, I always cross and go on the park side. By the way, one of the reasons that Jesse Livermore killed himself was he wrote a final book that was on technical analysis, that was supposedly giving his secrets, and he was hoping to recoup his 5th lost fortune
by selling books.
That, but it didn't sell, and he was so disappointed. And he had borrowed money from one of the wives. Originally, he had a special trust fund, and in that trust fund, there was a stipulation that even if the wife agreed to it, that she would never be allowed to give him money.
Give him money.
But she did anyway, and he lost it. So
right.
I guess everything.
Well, I mean, it's a small price to pay for eternal life. I would think he's one of the most popular traders in history. So I don't know.
Well, is it worth losing 5? What I find very interesting is that
we're all gonna die someday, but he's gonna live forever. Well, you too. You wrote a couple of books as well, but you may be famous for your books, and he's famous for his suicide. So I don't know.
Well, I'm also famous. A long time ago, I was the best racket player in the
That's
world.
true too.
So,
yes.
And we're going to be famous. We write
with the podcast. We have a very stiff competition coming up. just a funny side note, you know, Prince Harry and Meghan are planning to produce and host a podcast on Spotify. So that's our competition, Prince Harry and Meghan.
So what's your prediction for tomorrow?
I think it's going to be more of trading in the same range as we did today. We've kind of been range bound, and I really don't think it's going to be a breakout. I could be wrong, but that's why I was short, because I think it's going to be more of a range. If I'm wrong, then I will have to cover and reassess.
Well, that's always very painful when you're recovering, when it's going against you the most. One thing I don't like is that real estate is way down. The office real estates are down 40%, and lodging real estate RETs are down 50%. Commercial real estate is down 45%. And in general, of course, the warehouse real estates are up a bit, but I found that the best long-term predictor of stock market declines is a decline in real estate. Henry George wrote a book in around 1880. He was very popular, and in it he quantified the relation between real estate stock prices and the New York Stock Exchange. So I find there are a lot of flies in the ointment are shedding bearish things on the market.
Which is unlike you, because you're usually very much an optimist.
Well, I wouldn't say that that this would ever induce you to become short. I'm just saying that on a six-month basis, and a lot of other things are in that vein. I notice that the SEC and the CFTC are going to hold the money managers to a fiduciary standard to make sure that they're taking account of all the environmental difficulties that they face. And they're sponsoring a rule where the holdings of institutions would have to have a filter based upon its environmental impact. And as the Wall Street Journal said, that would be very good for the head of the committee, who was Bloomberg, that he'd make a lot of money, but everybody else would lose a lot of money. And there are a lot of regulations coming out of the pension fund regulations that again would have a very major bearish impact. I noticed that it's now only 69% that the Democrats will win in Georgia, that the Republicans will win in Georgia. And again, I'm paying very close attention to the most likely winner of the 2024 election. That is Kamala Harris. She's about 1 in 4 to win, and Biden is about 1 in 5 to win, and Trump is about 1 in 9 to win. So there there are a lot of cross currents that are pretty negative. What do you feel about the vaccine? Do you think that that's going to be the panacea?
Well, just a quick point to what you said about the real estate, and then we'll get back to the vaccine. A couple of days ago, I was saying that the IPO market is hot and Airbnb just went public. So it could be a fly in an ointment, so to speak. Like you were saying, the real estate market is going down while Airbnb is going public. And it's been down for the last 2 days since 7% and 4% respectively. So perhaps that's just another indication of the real estate market issues.
Well, a lot of people say that you should never listen to anyone who's not an epidemiologist concerning the vaccine.
Right.
But I've studied the subject, and I feel I'm competent to evaluate the papers in the field. I can understand them and do the statistics. And I'm not convinced that the vaccine is going to be so successful.
You mean medically speaking?
Well,
I think the vaccine is going to be very much successful placebo-wise. Everybody's waiting for it, and people don't care if it works or not. It's like one of those placebo shots. I'll take it and I'll be fine. And so now I can finally go out. Many people have told me that they actually had coronavirus. They got through the virus, and yet they're still not comfortable traveling or doing anything, even though the antibodies are presumably there. But they will be comfortable doing everything once they get a vaccine. So I think that's what it's mostly a placebo effect.
Well, speaking about the placebo, the people who received the placebo in the Pfizer's trials, 22,000 of them, only
Right.
about 0.2% of them actually showed that they had the virus. Now, of those that had the virus, those that actually show symptoms and that show any negative effects from the disease is another 0.5%, 0.5%. But people like me have to worry because half of all the deaths have occurred in nursing homes.
Right. And they haven't tested really the vaccine on the nursing home population. And we don't know how it affects them.
I just bought some ivermectin. Originally, it was prescribed for the foxes that are roaming around my backyard, but it seems to be available, and I'm going to stick with that as my preventive rather than the vaccine. I think that a lot of the as you said, New York is in lockdown as far as indoor dining occurs.
Right. And de Blasio threatening to shut it all down after Christmas. But I'm not sure he has the power. I think it's up to Cuomo, really.
Well, speaking about power, I think all these efforts are an effort to show that the government can tell you what the best thing to do is. And
right.
They set the people up for more government interference. And the same thing will happen with all the bailouts. The fact that all the businesses that that are doing badly will get a lifeline, will set businesses up and people to expect government to help. Now,
But the government is not helping, right? So it's one of those questions that nobody wants to discuss, right? Like you said, more than half of the country's deaths from corona are in nursing homes, right? Where the life expectancy.
Will you requite our podcast when I'm in a nursing home? Will you? Can you think we can still arrange all the technology so that?
Hopefully you won't need it for a very long time. But the question is still this, whether it's worth it shutting down the country for saving mostly nursing home people, while instead of just simply shutting down the nursing homes. The life expectancy of people in the nursing home as it is what, half a year to a year from the ones who have actually died. So you're depriving grandchildren of that sad person in a nursing home from education for a year. You are making their children go bankrupt by closing businesses, all to add potentially half a year of life to a nursing home resident. You know, it's nobody wants to even talk about that.
If you talk about it, you'll be exercised and
right.
You'll be X to your whole family.
Right. Yes, yes. And nobody wants to talk about vitamin D, which also multitude of studies shows that it improves the symptoms, reduces the severity of the disease. So just basically giving nursing home residents vitamin D injections or supplements would by itself be a huge help. But we prefer to spend millions of dollars on new pharmaceuticals.
We're talking about various aspects, the pensions and the regulations on fossil fuel and the government's incursion into the lives of individuals, breakdown of capital. I think that these factors are important. I think that they'll be manifested in the Federal Reserve's action tomorrow. I think that they'll do something that will be very woke. I think it will be negative.
Wow.
Okay, well.
Interesting. I like how you tie everything to the markets. Very interesting point.
Tomorrow should be an interesting day. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.